Beth Rausch has been a member at UUFN for almost 29 years. She has served on a number of committees and teams. Since retiring as a clinical social worker, she has spent hundreds of hours online and in person with thought leaders in the transformational movement.
Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift. We will now light the chalice. So today's reading is a poem by Naomi Shihab Nye called So Much Happiness. It is difficult to know what to do with so much happiness. With sadness, there's something to rub against, a wound to tend, with lotion and cloth. When the world falls in around you, you have pieces to pick up, something to hold in your hands, like ticket stubs or change. But happiness floats. It doesn't need you to hold it down. It doesn't need anything. Happiness lands on the roof of the next house singing and disappears when it wants to. You are happy either way. Even the fact that you once lived in a peaceful treehouse and now live over a quarry of noise and dust cannot make you unhappy. Everything has a life of its own. It too could wake up filled with possibilities of coffee cake and ripe peaches, and love even the floor which needs to be swept, the soiled linens and scratched records and cracked ceilings. Since there's no place large enough to contain so much happiness, you shrug, raise your hands, and it flows out of you into everything you touch. You are not responsible. You take no credit, as the night sky takes no credit for the moon, but continues to hold it and share it, and in that way, be known. Now I invite you to take a long, slow, deep breath. Followed by several more. And notice the inhale, the exhale, and the moment of rest in between. And on the next breath, let your awareness follow your breath inside your body, down through the throat, torso, abdomen, thighs, calves, and out through the soles of your feet and into the earth, where it makes contact with Mother Earth's nurturing, healing energy and draws it back up through your body and out through the top of your head. And notice, feel, sense at the same time beautiful golden crystalline energy of inspiration flowing down from above and pouring over your body like a waterfall and entering through the top of your head, making its way down through your body and out through the soles of your feet. And where these two energies meet in the center is the energy of connection. So I invite you to connect first with yourself, with that center part of you that holds your deep caring, love, compassion, and joy. And then let your attention move out to the edges of yourself, and then to the edges of the room, including the virtual room. Being aware of the connection among us all, like the rhizome of mushrooms, or the way trees communicate under the soil. And from this place of support and love, allow yourself to come back and be fully present in this room. So I'm going to invite you to notice your responses to two things. First, I'm going to say a word. And when I say this word, I ask you to just notice the thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations, if any, I'm going to say a word, and when I do, I invite you to notice your response. Ready? Thanksgiving. A little bit of a surprise, right? When I hear that word, all kinds of things come up, like the story of the first Thanksgiving, how we have treated indigenous people in this country, fancy place settings and fabulous dinners and to-do lists and shopping frenzy and gratitude and appreciation. And maybe some or all of those came up for you too. So the second thing I'd like you to notice your response to is a quote. Albert Einstein said, "I think the most important question facing humanity is the universe a friendly place? This is the first and most basic question all people must answer for themselves. For if we decide that the universe is an unfriendly place, then we will use our technology, our scientific discoveries, and our natural resources to achieve safety and power by creating bigger walls to keep out the unfriendliness and bigger weapons to destroy all that which is unfriendly. And I believe that we are getting to a place where technology is powerful enough that we may either completely isolate or destroy ourselves as well in this process. If we decide that the universe is neither friendly nor unfriendly, and God is essentially playing dice with the universe, then we are simply victims to the random toss of the dice, and our lives have no purpose or meaning. But if we decide that the universe is a friendly place, then we will use our technology, our scientific discoveries, and our natural resources to create tools and models for understanding that universe. Because power and safety will come through understanding its workings and its motives. God does not play dice with the universe. So what's your take on the universe? Friendly or not? You might wonder how these two things are linked, and why does this matter to you? Well, I've noticed that as my perception of the universe and my experience of appreciation and gratitude, that they affect each other as they change together. And the more I practice a different kind of gratitude, the more expansive my life view becomes. And the more expansive my life view becomes, the more deep my gratitude. So I'm attempting to describe how that relationship developed for me. And please understand that I'm a novice at this, and it may or may not matter to you, but you matter, and I'm thankful for all of you. So part one could be called Random Universe, Ordinary Gratitude. As a child, of course, I didn't think about whether the universe was friendly or not. That would have been a really weird question. But I believe I knew it was, because most of my childhood, I was just thrilled to be alive. I would wake up every morning delighted to find out what I would learn and discover what I would discover, and because I knew it was all leading up to my being an adult. And when I was 21, an adult, I would know it all. I would understand all this stuff that didn't make sense to me, and it couldn't be any other way. I mean, it was just intolerable to think that I would not know that. Then by about age 12, all of that had diminished quite a bit. And I came to the awful conclusion that grown-ups really didn't know much more about the meaning of life than kids did. So I came to the conclusion that it's all unknown and cannot be known, and I decided the universe was random, and I was pretty much powerless to control my own life and destiny. And at that point, I was an ingrate. And I felt powerless to create a meaningful life. People would say, you should be grateful to your parents because they gave you life. And I would think, they gave me life because they wanted a child. As far as I know, I don't recall anybody asking me if I wanted to be that child. I now think I might have been wrong about that, but there was this randomness, and at the same time, I knew there was an intelligence at work in the universe that created dogs and butterflies and watermelons in the earth and the solar system, galaxies and universe. And it was elegant and perfectly designed, exquisitely designed. And since that was the case, I was balancing these two dichotomies. I didn't know how to do that, and I decided there was no point in even thinking about it, and settled solidly into agnosticism, which grew organically for decades. So what does this have to do with Thanksgiving? Well, I was grateful for the random good that came to me. Possibly even more so because in a random universe, you're totally grateful for what befalls us. And I had plenty to be grateful for. And I enjoyed feeling grateful. As a young child, Thanksgiving was my second favorite holiday, partly because it was the start of the season leading up to my very favorite holiday. And it involved food and family, and I loved that. By the time I was graduated from college, Thanksgiving had become my hands-down favorite holiday, because at that time it was a day set aside for just gratitude and appreciation and food. There were no stores open, nothing else was going on, but there was some guilt thrown in because of acute awareness that we had so much compared to other people in the world. And in the part of my life when I was driving 2 hours each way to a sumptuous, elegant, over-the-top gourmet feast that my cousin's wife prepared each year, I was privately embarrassed. It was an embarrassment of riches. And when she told me that for her, it was like her spiritual holiday and fed her soul, it made it okay. But it wasn't until my perception of the universe began to change that I totally got rid of that. So that was life in a neutral, random universe with its corresponding ordinary gratitude. And if you'll go with me, we're about to move to life in a friendly, supportive universe with its less ordinary gratitude. Friendly universe, extraordinary gratitude. Although I actually really appreciation, because that has increase built into it. Still, I'm going to use gratitude throughout. So let's say I was in the land of a neutral, random universe, and not particularly grateful to be there. But I've moved to a life-positive, friendly universe, and I'm so grateful to be here. Appreciative of the ability to use resources I cannot perceive with my senses. Grateful for inspiration, love, support, and others. What was so discouraging to me as an adolescent, that we can't know much, I now find exciting and encouraging. The new science is providing so much information on a daily basis that's life-changing that it's impossible to even scratch the surface. But we now know that everything is energy. And we know it's possible to even change gene expression. It can be changed by us through lifestyle and thought. So much is possible that we used to think was impossible. I used to hear about the hidden laws of the universe or spiritual law, and snarkily I would think to myself, yeah, where's the Congress that legislated those? And where's it written down? But I realize now that people who say that are talking about principles that describe and govern how the world works, like principles governing electricity and aerodynamics and thermodynamics. And there are people who understand more about how the world works and how we, as spiritual beings, having human experiences, function in that world. The universe really is plastic to our thinking. And when we couple it with feeling, and while we can't control circumstances and events, we have way more power and agency to co-create our lives than we ever imagined. That's such an exciting time to be alive. We will either complete the sixth extension of life on Earth or radically transform it into something amazing, and maybe even in the lifetime of the grandchildren of some of the people in this room. And for the first time in history, significant numbers of ordinary people have the opportunity to work towards self-actualization instead of survival. And this is something that can't be done alone. As Claire Zammit says, we can't become ourselves by ourselves. That's why community is so important. Wayne Dyer, in 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace, said that no one knows enough to be a pessimist. Rumi observed, I'm quoting him still, Rumi observed, sell your cleverness and purchase bewilderment. The scene of an emerging sprout represents the beginning of life, and no one on this planet has even a tiny clue as to how all of this works. What is that creative spark that causes life to sprout? What created the observer, the consciousness, the observation and perception itself? The questions are endless. How can anyone be a pessimist in a world where we know so little? This different worldview calls for a different gratitude. Gratitude for what comes to us from the external world is not inferior. I think it's a fundamental level. It remains important, and it's almost a reflex or an instinct. We see or experience something wonderful, and we respond with thanks and appreciation. But it's different in many ways, I think, than what some call generative gratitude. Generative gratitude or appreciation is something one chooses. A belief that all of life is happening for us and the entire universe is organized around our success leads to being open to appreciation and wonder in the present moment. I think that's what the video was saying. It's in the mundane hours and tasks and the excruciatingly painful experiences of life that it's challenging to be grateful in the moment. And I said in the moment, not for the thing that's happening that we never wanted to have happen. Really advanced spiritual practitioners through the ages seem to live in this advanced gratitude. But there are people in our everyday lives, and probably some in this room, and including the Zoom room, who've mastered this. I'd like to tell you about one that I met. In 1994, we had a winter like none I've ever experienced before or since. We had ice storm after ice storm after ice storm. There was no thawing and no melting in between. And so the parking lot of the building where I worked, there was a layer of ice, covered with a layer of sand, covered with a layer of ice, covered with a layer, you couldn't tell what was on top. And just getting from the house to the car, or from the car to any other building in an upright position was a major challenge. We didn't have delivery systems, people bringing food and things to our doors in those days. Anyway, that winter I was working as a hospice social worker. And I went to visit one of my patients who lived out in the country in a probably 200-year-old farmhouse. The building was 2 rooms wide and 1 room deep and 3 stories high, and there was a hill going up behind it. And the patient was about 6'2", and suffering dementia that had caused him to almost burn the house down the night before. And his caregiver was his 83-year-old aunt, who was about 5 feet tall, petite African-American woman, and she took in laundry and mending and ironing to keep food on the table and coal in the furnace. Now, if you've ever experienced coal furnace, it doesn't come on and off like gas and oil. It has to be tended. The ashes have to be cleared. It has to be banked at night and stoked in the morning and fed, and it's physical labor. So here's this woman doing all of this labor, and in the circumstances where she is effectively taking care of an infant who's mobile and weighs 180 pounds. And I'm thinking, this poor woman. We were sitting at her dining room table. It was the room where she did her ironing and things, and surrounded by tablecloths and clothes. And she looked across the table at me and she said, "Well, at least this winter put an end to poverty." And I said, "Oh?" And there was a window, a picture window in her dining room, and she looked out the window at the hill, which was covered in snow, and the trees there were covered in ice, and the sun was glistening and glinting off everything. And she said, "Yep, somebody ain't had enough diamonds and crystals this year. There's something wrong with them." That's gratitude in the moment, in the situation, in life. Mary Morrissey has a practice that she does, where she says she doesn't let her feet touch the floor in the morning. She doesn't get out of bed until she's in this generative state of gratitude for this day and this life. And I'm attempting to practice that. However, if I held to that, I would not get out of bed many days. I can always reach the grateful for level, but the vibration of deeper gratitude is somewhat different. I think practice may be helping, though, because about 10 days ago, I woke up and I use an echo as an alarm clock, and it's down at the foot of the stairs, and I'm upstairs, and given the configuration of walls and doors and things, when the alarm goes off, I have to yell, "Alexa, off!" which is not a great way to start the day. So I thought a little music might help, and I asked it to play music by Claude Debussy. And when the music came on, there was this jolt of I don't know how to describe it, except it's a jolt of delight that hit me. It was like, I'm in this body that's perfectly engineered with ears to pick up those vibrations and convert them into sound, and let me have this experience of listening to this music. Isn't that cool? So later on in the day, I said to myself, "Yeah, so you've been on the planet almost 77 years and you're just noticing this?" And the answer was no, of course not. I've been thankful for it before with my mind and heart, but this was appreciation with my whole being, and it's different. It strikes me that ordinary gratitude is like a string or fabric woven with a single strand. Generative gratitude's like a multi-strand rope or cloth woven with different yarns and threads that allow for different textures and colors and patterns and thicknesses. And in the case of rope, magnified strength. Some of the other strands of this gratitude include forgiveness, generosity, trust, and allowing the universe, source, life, God, however you conceive of the power breathing you, to completely support you and provide all the resources needed to create whatever you need and want. So I feel that I'm on a journey with this, and it's powered at least in part by gratitude. And I realize that I'm not that far beyond my own front door. And given that my expiration date is looming ever closer on the horizon, I don't know how far I'll get. But attempting to appreciate each step has already enriched my life experience. And if I can set out in a new, more fulfilling and delicious life at my age, you can do it at your age. It can be done at any age, and imagine what we can all do together. So, in conclusion, although this seems more complex, extraordinary gratitude is extraordinarily simple and natural if we can consciously allow it. So, this holiday, if peace is what we need, if joy is what we seek, may gratitude lead us there.
This concludes our service. There is coffee in the parking lot for continued conversation. People online, please remain for social time in our breakout rooms. Thank you for attending the UUFN.